Good evening, everyone. It is Monday, March 2nd, 2026. Welcome to Douglas Now Live. I'm Robert Preston Jr. here live in the Douglas Now Live studios on West Walker Street. Got a couple of updates I want to give to you here tonight. Going to run over a few things real quickly. Yes, I'm still wearing my purple Sally Jesse Raphael glasses. If you don't know who Sally Jesse Raphael is, Google it. If you're my age, a little bit older, maybe a little bit younger, you absolutely know who she is. If you don't, take a look at it. Look her up. You'll laugh. But yeah, I've got to get me some new glasses. But at the moment, this is all I've got. Plus, I love the comments that I get when y'all see me in these glasses because they are. They are women's glasses. That's pretty funny. I want to start with a Coffee High baseball update. And the Trojans, baseball is a very humbling sport. I'm careful about heaping too much praise on a baseball team because baseball has a way of turning the tables on you in a hurry. It happens without warning. It happens unapologetically and unmercifully, usually in spectacular fashion for all to see. But I would be remiss if we did not talk about what has happened here over the last couple of weeks. Saturday, the Trojans finished the non-region schedule. Now, I say they finished the non-region schedule. They'll play a few more non-region games later in the year. Once they wrap up the region schedule, they'll finish the season with a couple of non-region games. But for the most part, the early season, the tune-up games that you play before you get to the region schedule, those games are now over with. And the Trojans finished up on Friday and Saturday in the Savannah area with 2 wins, one against Savannah Christian. They won that game 2-0, and then against Richmond Hill, they won that game 5-3. The Trojans are 7-2 on the season, and they've got a big 3-game series with Lee County looming this weekend. Over in Savannah on Friday night, Coffee starter Gavin McElroy kept Savannah Christian off the board. 98-pitch complete game, 3-hitter. He struck out 13. He only walked 2. The Trojans got on the board at the top of the second when Eli Wood, who has absolutely been lighting it up lately. If you've been following these stories, Eli has been playing extremely well. He's pitched well. He's hit well. He's done a good job all the way around. He led off the inning with a double and then scored on a Hunter Klesko single to left. Wood also scored the second and final run of the game in the 6th inning when Jimmy Timothy hit a sacrifice fly. He had led off the 6th with a single, Wood had, and then came around to score when Timothy hit a sac fly. Saturday against Richmond Hill, the Trojans jumped out to a 1-0 lead in the 2nd inning, then broke a 1-1 tie with 3 runs in the 5th. They added an insurance run in the 7th to take a 5-1 lead. Richmond Hill's a pretty good ball team. They weren't going to go down quietly. They scored a couple of runs in the bottom of the 7th, but their comeback ended there. Reed Harden scored on a Hunter Klesko sacrifice fly in the 2nd to take a 1-0 lead in the 5th. Coffee scored all of its runs with 2 outs. That is significant. All right, that says a lot. And you'll always hear this in baseball. You hear it in softball as well, that 2-out hits and 2-out runs will get you to heaven when it comes to baseball and softball. And the Trojans found that out. McElroy singled, scoring Jimmy Timothy for a 2-1 advantage. Wood, remember that name, followed with a double to right, which drove in Ben Fussell and McElroy. And the Trojans scored another 2-out run in the 7th when McElroy scored on another single by Wood. All right, again, don't forget that name. McElroy, Wood, Timothy, and Taven Harden each had 2 hits. Wood had 3 RBIs, and McElroy scored twice. Ben Fussell picked up the win with a 107-pitch, 6 1/3 inning outing. He surrendered 3 runs, 1 earned, struck out 6, and walked 6. Wood had the save when he recorded the final 2 outs of the game. He struck out 1 and did not give up any walks. Now, with the region schedule on the horizon here. Here's the way region games are played. Play on Tuesday and Friday. Whoever travels on Tuesday plays at home on Friday. You play a single game on Tuesday. Then on Friday, you play a doubleheader. So tomorrow, the Trojans travel. I need to say Coffee travels because Lee County and Coffee are both Trojans. Coffee travels to Lee County tomorrow to play one game. On Friday, Lee County will come over here and we'll play a doubleheader. So you play a 3-game series each week, and it will continue on through the end of the season like that. You travel on Tuesday, you play a doubleheader at home on Friday. Friday afternoon, the Trojans are going to recognize the Coffee County, Douglas Coffee County Parks and Recreation Miracle League players. And let me explain something. I have a son. Many of you know I have a son who plays in Miracle League, Montgomery. The Miracle League has been phenomenal all the way around. All right. There is very much an underserved, underutilized, and quite frankly, underappreciated segment of our community. All right. And those are adults and children with special needs. Miracle League gives those children and those adults an opportunity to get on the field and play. When they're on the field, they have just as much fun and are just as competitive and give just as much effort as their able-bodied counterparts. And the programs that we have here in Coffee County, whether it's the Coffee High baseball program, South Georgia State College softball team, South Georgia State College baseball team, those programs have been very welcoming and very accommodating to the Miracle League. And it means a lot to the kids. I can tell you as a parent/caregiver, it means a lot to us as well. Coffee High has already recognized Miracle League once this season. They're doing it again on Friday night, right before the game. It's not going to be a long ceremony, not going to tie up a lot of time. It's going to be a nod to the Miracle League players and to acknowledge the work that they do, that they put in, and also the love that they have for the game. So I appreciate Coach Scott Grove and the high school program for opening their facility up to the Miracle League. And also the same thing goes Taylor Parker at South Georgia State College, softball coach, Jeff Timothy, the baseball coach, head baseball coach at South Georgia. They've been phenomenal. All right. And it's really neat. So that's going to be a part of the, of the region home opener Friday. So it's going to be big. And listen, these kids are playing really, really well under second-year head coach Scott Grove. And, the region's going to be tough. Lee County's a good team. Houston County's a good team, although Coffee was the only team in the region to beat Houston County last year. But we've been under Coach Grove's system for a year. We've got a few new players in. We've got some kids who have really stepped up and developed. You're hearing, if you read these stories, and you read the stories last year, you're hearing names, reading names that you didn't read last year. All right? These kids are stepping up and they're developing. And then, of course, you've got some veteran leadership on the team that's also doing well, too. So it's going to be fun the next couple of months. And listen, we're going to be in a playoff hunt before long. And in a region our size, with the way the calendar works, every game is really almost like, or every series is almost like a play-in series to the postseason. So the stakes are high now, all right? And we've had a good season. We've had some good tune-up games. We played some good competition, and now we're headed into a very tough region schedule. So I'm excited about it. I think it's neat. I think it's fun, and I like the direction that the program is going. Earlier today, the Coffee County Sheriff's Office released the DICE unit's statistics for the month of February. And DICE stands for Drug Interdiction and Criminal Enforcement Unit. They issued a press release and a few mug shots here. I'm going to try to get these, everybody equal airtime here. But the DICE unit again released this press release a couple hours ago. On February 6th, deputies stopped 2 people riding bicycles for riding on the wrong side of the road. One of the individuals Jose Fabian Martinez Barrera attempted to flee into a yard and abandon his bike before being detained. Deputies uncovered a .22 caliber handgun near the discarded bike and confirmed that Barrera had an active bench warrant for failure to appear. He was taken into custody. This is Mr. Barrera right here. Deputies later arrested Brenda K. Smith on 4 active probation warrants. In a separate incident, Natalie Brockington, age 38, was arrested during a traffic stop for a faulty headlight after deputies discovered an active bench warrant. Both individuals were taken into custody as a result of their warrants. This is Miss Smith. This is Miss Brockington. On February 24th, agents stopped Riveriano, Jose Romero, for riding a bike into oncoming traffic. During the traffic stop, Mr. Romero allegedly attempted to discard a plastic bag containing suspected methamphetamine, which he admitted to obtaining from a nearby residence. Deputies recovered the substance and took Mr. Romero, seen here, into custody without incident. During additional DICE operations, deputies arrested Joseph Cumbus, 53, for possession of methamphetamine and driving without a license during a traffic stop. In a separate traffic stop, Brittany Marie Anderson, 33, was arrested on active warrants and found to be in possession of methamphetamine. Mr. Cumbus here, Miss Anderson here. Now, a lot of people don't like this kind of stuff. And, we do stories, and this was a press release from the sheriff's office. But when we're looking at the arrest report, the booking report, and looking for the types of stories that we're going to cover throughout the week, people stop for riding bicycles, crossing the roads improperly, that kind of thing. We typically do stories on that. A lot of people have a problem with it. Now, here's the deal. If you're on a bicycle, whether you're on a fancy, race bike and you're out riding for exercise, or whether you're on a bike that you bought from Walmart that you're using for transportation to get to point A to point B, you're riding to work, home from work, what have you, it doesn't matter. You're supposed to obey the rules of the road. Bicycles are considered vehicles from a traffic standpoint. Now, you don't have to have a driver's license, obviously, to ride a bicycle. But if you're on a bicycle, you're supposed to follow the same rules of the road that vehicles are supposed to follow. Similarly, if you're in a vehicle and you come up behind a bicycle is on the road, and they have the right to be on the road, whether you as a motorist like it or not, you're supposed to give them the same courtesy that you give another vehicle. So when you go around a bicycle, you're not supposed to get as close to that bike as possible as you go around. You're supposed to give them as wide a berth as you can, preferably passing during, a legal passing lane and getting into the other lane of traffic. Now, most people don't do that. So again, if you're on a bicycle, you can't ride facing traffic. A lot of people ride a bike facing traffic. You're not supposed to do that. That's very dangerous. It's also against the law. Police can and will stop you. Now, one thing that's not in this press release is the time of day in which these individuals on bikes were stopped. People may say that's a little bit nitpicky, but listen, if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, and an officer sees you on a bicycle, you're riding without a headlight, you're riding on the sidewalk, you're riding facing traffic, you don't yield right of way when you're supposed to, you can be stopped for running a stop sign, for running a red light, anything like that. They're going to use that in many cases as probable cause to stop you. All right? Now, again, a lot of people don't like that, but officers know that if you're out at 2 or 3 in the morning, you're not up to anything good. All right? You're not going to Bible study at 3 o'clock in the morning. You're not going to Sunday school at 3 o'clock in the morning. Right? You could be going to work. That is a possibility. And if you're going to work, hopefully you don't have methamphetamine or marijuana or whatever else you might have in your pocket. All right? So if an officer stops you, they're going to let you go if, in fact, you don't have any illegal contraband on you or if you don't have an active warrant. but this is a way for officers to get individuals off the streets who have active warrants, who possibly have drugs. Because listen, I'm going to say it, and you can get mad, and that's fine. If you're out at 3 o'clock in the morning, you probably either intoxicated in some shape, form, or fashion. You're on your way to get intoxicated in some shape, form, or fashion, or you have something on your person that will get you intoxicated that you haven't had time to ingest yet. All right. And that's what happens a lot of the time. So that's why officers do this kind of stuff. And look, if you're not out at 3 o'clock in the morning, you don't have anything to worry about. But it's true. One of the things I pay attention to when I write a crime story is what time did this happen? A lot of times incidents happen after midnight, certainly after 11 p.m. But after midnight in the early morning hours, a few times there are incidents that happen during the day, but that's few and far between. It seems to happen more during the day on weekends than it does during the week. But a lot of this stuff happens at night. So that's why officers do that. And again, a lot of people don't like it. They think it's overreach. They think officers are overstepping their bounds. They don't particularly care for it, but a lot of times it does in fact work, and they do find individuals with warrants, individuals with drugs, guns, what have you. All right. So that's the way it's going to be. Now, one other thing, and this is kind of interesting, right? If an officer approaches you and asks you any questions, you do not have to give them consent to search if you're not breaking the law. For example, if you're walking down the sidewalk, officer stops and says, "Hey, can we search you?" And you say no, they can't. You can have a pocket full of methamphetamine, but if they don't have probable cause and you stand there, you don't have a Fourth Amendment waiver or something like that, you stand there, they can't legally search you. Where they can search you and where they can detain you is if you run. So if you have a pocket full of methamphetamine and an officer sees you walking down the sidewalk at 2 o'clock in the morning, and he doesn't otherwise recognize you as a known offender in the past, and he asks you a question, he stops and wants to talk to you and find out what's going on. If you run from him, at that point, all bets are off. And usually, if you have a pocket full of meth, you're probably going to run from the law. But if you stand there and answer the questions and don't give them any reason, they can't search you. A lot of people don't know that. So, if you're going to jail anyway, roll the dice and don't run and see what happens. All right? Because again, they can't search you. Now, you've got a Fourth Amendment waiver, all bets are off. So, but that's what happens, and it does work, and it does get individuals who have a tendency to break the law off the street. Our voter sticker, I keep this sticker in my desk, and we use this from time to time. We've gotten a lot of mileage out of my sticker. Now, the fact that we have the sticker means that I don't wear an I vote sticker after I vote. I don't know. I just don't think it's anybody's business that I voted or not. I'm not going to take a picture. I did my civic duty, and that's the big flex these days. So let people know that you voted. Just vote. You don't have to let people know. Let people know everything you do. Just go vote. All right. What I want to see, if you're gonna take a picture with your sticker, I voted, we did our civic duty, whatever people post on Facebook. Tell us who you voted for. That's the fun part. That's what we want to know. I'm joking. Don't do that. Don't ever tell anybody who you vote for. One thing I want to mention here, qualifying began today for local elections, also for state elections. All right. But if you're running for a state office, you do not qualify in the county. You have to go to Atlanta to qualify. State representative, state senate, something like that. Even if you're running for, say, Superior Court judge position, you don't qualify in the local district. You have to travel out of Coffee County and out of the Waycross Judicial Circuit if you want to run for that office. But if you're wanting to run in one of the local elections, and there are a few, you've got county commissioners or county commission districts 1 and 3. That would be George McIver and A.J. Dover's districts, respectively. Board of Education Districts 1, 2, and 4, that would be Leola Johnson, Jesse Jowers, and Brian Preston. And then Solicitor, Jared Roberts. All right. So if you want to run for either of those or any of those positions, you will qualify here in Coffee County. County Commissioner qualifying fee is $127.17. Board of Education is $303.19. Solicitor, $2,058.82. You may ask, why are the qualifying fees different depending upon the position? Qualifying fees are based on the salary that the position brings, right? So the higher the salary for whatever elected office, the higher the qualifying fee, all right? So that is, in fact, the way it works. Qualifying began this morning at 9 a.m. and runs through Friday, March 6th at noon. You can qualify at the Coffee County Elections Office at 224 West Ashley Street, Suite A. That's the new Courthouse Annex building. And you can give the office a call at 384-7018. That is, of course, a 912 area code if you have forgotten what area code we're in. I do not have a report for who qualified today, but I know at least 2 candidates did. Brian Preston of the on the school board. And Brian is District 4. He qualified today, and Angie Osteen qualified for state senate. Again, that's not a local election. I mean, she represents a local area, but it being state representative, there are different guidelines as to where you qualify for that. But she qualified as well. It doesn't seem like she should be running again so quickly, but they run every 2 years. This is her second legislative session, so she has to run for that seat one more time. So, yeah, so those 2 candidates have qualified. We will get a little bit more information in the morning and try to get this out. But if you live in County Commission District 1 or 3 or School Board District 1, 2, or 4 and would like to run, you will have an opportunity to do so. If you're an attorney and you want to run for solicitor, you can do that. That is a partisan election. It's kind of interesting. The county commission elections are partisan. The school board election is nonpartisan. Solicitor is partisan. You know what? And I've said this before, and others have too, but local elections should all be nonpartisan. I really believe that. I don't think that politics matters as much. Your political party, your political affiliation, I don't think that matters as much at the local level as it does at the state level. The farther you move up the political ladder, the farther you get away from your local community, the more the partisanship matters. And that's just the way that it is. And I wish we didn't have to worry about the primaries and the runoffs and all this other stuff. And I'll tell you, speaking of runoff, I'm on the fence a little bit about this because some states don't have runoffs. I don't believe Florida does. Whoever gets the most vote, you got 20 people running in an election, and somebody gets 8% of the vote, and that's the most. And I don't know if that's mathematically possible. I didn't work that out in my head. Then you win. There is none of this 50% plus one. And I think I kind of like it. I would hate to be a candidate with all the campaigning that we do now, because people start campaigning so early. And then you get in a runoff and you've got to continue campaigning for another couple of months. You've got to raise more money. You got to spend more money. You got to do all that stuff. I think I could be convinced. There are 2 things I've always said that I wasn't really interested in. One was getting away from the runoff system. I think I could be convinced of that. And I also think I could be convinced with term limits. I've said many times that I was against term limits because you have a built-in term limit system when you run for election every 2 years, every 4 years, depending upon the office. But the system, and I hate to say this, I know what this sounds like. I know it. I don't want to say the system is rigged, but the system heavily favors incumbents. So if you get into a position, the chances of you keeping that position are pretty strong. All right. It's hard to get someone out of office once they're in. Yes, we have the opportunity to vote every 4 years, every 2 years. But pay attention to how many times incumbents win. It's most of the time. A lot of people get in these positions. It's very hard to get them out, even when they deserve to be gotten out. All right? So with a system that encourages personal enrichment, and I'm not saying everyone who is elected does so or enriches themselves as a result of being elected, but some do. They do. And our systems encourage that. When you're dealing with a system like that, and because it encourages personal enrichment, it is difficult to unseat those individuals. All right? Because people who make, I don't think the Secretary of State, or let me back up, whoever is in charge of enforcing election laws, in this case, it's the Secretary of State, but I do not think that individual should be an elected official. I think it should be an independent as much as possible, objective as much as possible, outside agency or outside entity that sets and enforces election laws. Because people who are elected are not going to make it more difficult to get elected. All right? And that's why election laws are so complicated. They're very complex. And it's very difficult to prove voter fraud. Now, I've been saying this for a long time, and I don't want to get on to the, the election integrity stuff that's popped up in the last 6 years or so. All right? If you go back, and I've followed elections for a long time in Coffee County. All right. There are plenty of opportunities, not just in Coffee County, but in every county because of the way the system works for election fraud. All right. It's very easy for there to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Fractures of election statutes that help people get elected. And it's very hard to prove. And I think one of the reasons why is because you have people who are overseeing elections who are elected officials, and there is a large amount of power and influence that goes with those positions as well. And when people get a hold of something like that, they don't want to let it go. So anyway, I think I could be convinced for term limits. Now, I don't know what those term limits would be, but I think that you could convince me of that. All right. Again, one time I said no. Now, I think I probably could. And what makes me think about that is going back years ago, serving in elected office was something people did out of duty. People wanted to serve. They went in. They got elected, they served a couple of terms, they did what they wanted to do, and then they moved on and let somebody else come in. Somewhere along the line that changed. You saw people get into these offices and then not want to get out. And that's true at the local level, state level, and federal level. All right? Look at the people at the local level who have served in positions for a very long period of time. Right? Used to, you serve a term or two, move on. Not anymore. People get in it, they don't want to get out. So I could be convinced for term limits. I could. I don't think we're going to see it, but I could be convinced of that. Let's take a look at our tower cam. We got a full moon tonight. Teachers, tomorrow, beware. Beware. Also, law enforcement officers, if you're on night shift tonight, be ready, all right? Because there are more arrests. There's more activity when there's a full moon. On a positive note, if someone tries to run from you, you can see them better in the moonlight. It's harder to hide, all right? If you catch the clouds not on the moon, you can see pretty clearly, all right? So, anybody trying to run tonight, it's going to be a little bit harder because the moon provides a pretty good bit of light. But yeah, we've got a beautiful night here. Now, it's a beautiful day today. Got a little windy later in the afternoon, and I know March is historically a windy month. I've told y'all, can't wait to get to March. We're here. Time changes this week. All is going to be right with the world. We got January and February behind us. We are rushing towards springtime. The time changes. We've got more daylight. This is the time of the year that I really enjoy. I feel like we're coming out of the winter doldrums a little bit. I know the weather's still going to be a little unpredictable for the next, 6 weeks or so. But listen, we've got the worst behind us. I hope I'm not jinxing us, but I believe we've got the worst behind us. So looking forward to getting on in to the month of March. But it's a beautiful night. You can look out here and you can see the light from the moon, see a few street lights, a few house lights out here. So we got pretty good visibility tonight. But again, teachers just have to do the best you can. Law enforcement officers, fire department, first responders, just do the best you can. I want to thank everybody for streaming with us tonight. Pay attention to the sports. CCA baseball starts tomorrow. Speaking of lights, speaking of full moon, CCA now has lights on the baseball field. That's going to be tremendous. And they're going to turn those lights on tomorrow and have a ceremony, I believe, before the game to thank the sponsors, folks who have helped you put those lights up. And you may not realize CCA does not have lights, and the softball field does not have lights. When you're playing outside, that has an effect on your scheduling, on weather delays and things like that. Because if you run out of daylight, you can't flip the lights on. You get a team that scores a bunch of runs and the game lasts a long period of time. And it does affect when CCA starts baseball because they want to start as close to the time change as possible. They get that extra hour. And that's been a factor over the years. Now, for me, as someone who takes pictures at these games with a camera that is way too old to be taking pictures like I do, I like it when the time changes because I've got an extra hour of daylight and my pictures look just a little bit better. Not a lot, but they do look a little bit better. It's also when we're taking pictures at football games early in the year. I like those games before the time changes, before we roll back an hour, because then I get a few extra minutes in the first half to get some pictures in the daylight. It makes a tremendous difference when you have old, outdated, and failing equipment like I do. I got to buy a new camera. Got to get a new camera sometime soon. I'm putting it off as long as possible. Again, I want to thank everyone for streaming with us tonight. If anything breaks, we will be back with you. Otherwise, we'll meet back here at our next appointed time. Everybody have a wonderful, wonderful evening, what's left of it. And I hope that you have a great Tuesday as well. We'll see you next time.